Welcome, students. Today we're going to discuss your Study Sync assignment, First Read of Mother Jones. Written by Judith Pinkerton, Mother Jones, Fierce Fighter for Workers' Rights, examines the efforts by Mary Harris Jones, a former schoolteacher who fought against unfair child labor practices in the U.S. in the late 1800s and early 1900s. In this excerpt, from Chapter 9, the author describes what influenced Mary Harris Jones to fight for the rights of child workers, her tactics, and how her efforts influence people, ideas, and events. Let's talk about some close reading strategies we can use to really understand Mother Jones and her influences. While reading, it's important to connect the ideas. Since Mother Jones' Fierce Fighter for Workers' Rights is a biography, it deals with real people, ideas, and events that influenced Mother Jones to take a stand on child labor and the influence she had on other people, ideas, and events once she took action. Okay, here's your job. You're going to be looking for key details in the text that describe these influences. And very important, you're going to identify cause and effect relationships. Like many writers of informational texts, the author uses technical language to give authority to her subject. You will encounter specialized language used in economics, history, and social studies. You'll also encounter words that have different meanings, such as the word strike. Here's some prior knowledge. Mary Harris Jones was a labor leader during a time in which industrial workers often faced exploitation and harsh working conditions. Many children did not go to school, instead had to work. Child labor was widespread. Often child labor was very brutal, and these children did not have rights. The theme of our unit is, why is it essential to defend human rights? Good readers use this close reading strategy. They consider what's the theme or the main idea. Let's connect Mother Jones to the essential question. Mary Harris Jones believed it was so essential to defend human rights that she became a prominent activist and a community organizer. Mary Harris Jones earned the nickname Mother Jones because of her groundbreaking demonstrations against unfair child labor practices. She led the historic march in 1903 to protest the poor conditions endured by young workers. A terrific reading strategy is to ask and answer questions as you're reading. In this strategy, you ask questions while you're reading, and then you answer them by searching for the answers in the text. As you read, ask basic who, what, where, when, why, and how questions before, during, and after you read, and that will help you get deeper into the text and remember more about what you have read. Let's ask some questions and seek the answers as we read. I love children, Mother Jones once told a reporter. We might ask, who is Mother Jones? Why is a reporter interviewing her? As I read, think of questions you will ask of this text. In countless shacks and shanties across the country, she had tied the shoes of children, wiped their noses, hugged them while they cried, scrambled to find food for them, fought for their rights. By the turn of the century, Almost 2 million children under the age of 16 worked in mills, factories, and mines. Images of the child workers Mother Jones had seen stayed with her. The torn, bleeding fingers of the breaker boys, the mill children living on coffee and stale bread. In June 1903, Mother Jones went to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the heart of the vast textile industry. About 100,000 workers from 600 different mills were on strike there. Okay, what questions have you asked or found answered so far? We might ask who? Not just who is Mother Jones, but who are these poor children? We might ask what? What is a breaker boy? An example of technical language is breaker boy, as well as textile industry. I might need to look those up to be able to define them. If we ask the question, when, we see by the turn of the century, but we have to determine which turn of the century is this. Would this be 1800 going into 1900s or 1900s going into 2000? To make sure, I might reread and notice, oh yes, it says specifically June 1903. Asking where, I can see in the first sentence, in countless shacks and shanties across the country. Reading carefully, I see it doesn't say all across the country, but it says countless shacks and shanties. Using the connotation of shacks and shanties, I can intuit that these are people living in poverty, and countless lets me know that this is very widespread among poor children. Where can also be answered with Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as a place that Mother Jones went to, and it is the heart of the textile industry. In the rest of this paragraph, see if you can answer how many, who, why. See if you can figure out what a strike is and what strikers are. Okay, about 100,000 workers from 600 different mills were on strike there. The strikers wanted their work week cut from 60 to 55 hours, even if it meant lower wages. About a sixth of the strikers were children under 16. Now let's think about our theme. Why is it essential to defend human rights? What caused Mother Jones to defend children's rights? Search for connection of ideas. What people, ideas, and events influenced Mother Jones to take a stand on child labor? We already know that Mother Jones went to Philadelphia during a strike of textile workers, and that a sixth of the strikers were children that were under 16. Nationwide, 80,000 children worked in the textile industry. In the South, Mother Jones had seen how dangerous their jobs were. Barefooted little girls and boys reached their tiny hands into the treacherous machinery to repair snapped threads, or crawled underneath the machinery to oil it. At Textile Union headquarters, Mother Jones met more of these mill children. Their bodies were bone thin, with hollow chests. Their shoulders were rounded from long hours spent hunched over the work benches. Even worse, she saw some with their hands off, some with the thumb missing, some with their fingers off at the knuckles, victims of mill accidents. Pennsylvania, like many other states, had laws that said children under 13 could not work, but parents often lied about the child's age. Poor families either put their children to work in the mills or starved. Mill owners looked the other way because child labor was cheap. Oh dear. Reading this, I can see the cause and effect of extreme poverty. I can see the economic cause and effect of mill owners looking the other way because child labor was cheap. As you work on this assignment on StudySync, highlight important information and annotate it. Use close reading strategies as you continue to read and link what you read to the essential question. What does this tell you about why it is essential to defend human rights? I'm really looking forward to reading what you think as you answer these questions on StudySync.